Welcome back to Jane in the Evening. Here at Jane in the Evening, what we do every day is we purchase a Progresso soup. Today I have chicken noodle. And we get one every day to try to prepare for the coronavirus apocalypse, so that we're just going to barricade the entrance to this room and we're going to eat these soups. And that's why we have to buy one every day until then. And the other thing we do, probably, if you're well acquainted, is we typically kill a paladin. Right? Let's get Lord Nicholas Boozan over here. Okay, that's great. In order to buy this Progresso soup, I went to Walmart, but I think it's illegal to do video coverage of that, so we're just going to kill a paladin. Great, look at that, I saved the game. Which means we should be able to play it inside Warcraft 3. We're going to go duke it out with this paladin. And the reason we're doing this is we have to do it until the beta. As you can see, though, this game is only alpha. So we still have to keep doing it. That's right. Yeah, let's run over there. I can use the arrow keys too. I was just gonna go fight
for honor
with this paladin.
Lok Narosh!
Yeah, Lok Narosh! He seems to be invulnerable, so that's pretty difficult. That's preventing us from killing a paladin.
Let me face the peril.
He wants to face the
Strike with
Let's
great
get on
vengeance!
with Dabu. Yes.
He seems to be swinging his hammer at us there. That's pretty bad. He's gonna strike with great vengeance.
Dabu.
Yeah, he is. Look at that. He even has a little ribbon on there, I think. Try to make his attack look
At
more
your call,
official.
as you wish.
Yeah,
It shall be done.
it shall be done. That's right.
Let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. So obviously the problem is that we're not damaging their hit points nor rendering their hit points. So I think in order to kill a paladin, we have to get his hit points to 0. So if you want to do that, how do you do that? Well, if you want to do that, obviously the key to doing that would be in the attack order. There's it makes a projectile, and then there's an attack projectile, and it doesn't ever register if it lands, okay? And this is really bad, because this means you can't tell if it hit them. So what we need to do is to say distance to target, right? That's just what we got to do, basically. If a distance to target is less than a certain amount. Which also points out that the travel distance we're going to go is based on distance to target. If distance to target is less than that, we'll just go distance to target. So we do need to find the distance to target. Right? In order to do that, distance to target, we're going to need to do the square root of dx, dx, dy, dy. And then we can do dtx, distance to target x, right? So then we do tx minus... Oh, wait, did we already do that, kind of? We already did kind of do that, actually. That would be c. C is the distance to target, isn't it? Great. Oh, that makes this much better. So, actually, this thing here is going to be whichever is less, c or that value, right? And then the other thing I'm going to say is if c is less than or equal to, like, some kind of threshold, right? Like 0.01 or something. Then return, because we're done, basically. Boolean done. Done equals true. And we can do is done. Right? And this lets us do render attack projectile. We should be able to say if this simulation projectile is done, then instead of random stand sequence, we want to have random death sequence. So it plays the death animation. And random death sequence we're going to play on this .model instance. Right? And its else case, we're going to do the stand sequence when it isn't done. And then I wonder, is there a silliness to this when I'm calling random stand sequence? I guess normally we only do it if the sequence ended or sequence is -1. I put in some places where I was careless by comparison. Yeah, so the place where I was careless was in update of render particle. We need to fix that. Render attack projectile. Yeah, so basically stand happens if model instance sequence ended or sequence is 1. Death, we're just gonna, I guess we'll do the same, but obviously there's a shortcoming to that we're gonna see pretty fast. I don't know, we'll see what this does. We'll see if it works.
I am the warsmash. Yes.
I am not afraid.
I can command
As
units
you
of all
wish.
players. I'm the king of Warcraft.
The spirits are restless. Your time has come. Yes.
Didn't look like that changed.
None will survive. For honor.
Hey, they started playing their death sound, but it was really loud and obnoxious. Who'd have thought? Interesting. Sequence ended or sequence equals -1. I thought we put in here random birth sequence though, and that this was used when we create the projectile. It should actually set it to birth animation. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird that that didn't do that. I kind of thought it should, that then we'd hear like a throw sound. So we'd play the birth animation.
The spirits are restless. Dabu.
We're gonna have to walk over here.
Your time has come.
So obviously this seems to have a problem, which is the way that it does random death sequence needs to be able to say select sequence. Is that public? It is public. Okay. Yeah. So instead of random death sequence, which is really dumb, we want some of that same logic. We want to say, you know, this thing, we're going to use this sequencer to select the death sequence out of the model, which would, I guess, be model instance.model. And we'll get the death sequence. And then if the sequence is not equal to sequence.index, then we play the death sequence. And I think that's it. I think that's all we need to do. And that way we only play it once. It should use the sequence's own repeat flags, I think. So it should hopefully just end and only play once. Let's find out.
Let's get on with it. Look, Narosh!
Nope, didn't work at all. I put it in the wrong place, actually, yeah. It was supposed to go up here. There we go. Let's try that. You know what else though? Instead of random death sequence, there should be this dot model instance dot set sequence to sequence dot index. There you go. Come on, Thrall, where you at?
The spirits are restless.
There we go.
Yes.
Yes. Is right.
None will survive. Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Your time has come. Yes.
Now, I don't know why it's not playing the birth animation. I really don't. Because it's supposed to check if sequence ended or sequence equals -1. But it doesn't seem to do that. Because sequence shouldn't equal -1 initially. It should, like... Maybe that's the key. Maybe... sequence ended or sequence equals -1. I mean, we basically need to wait for an update cycle, right? So, pretty much, here, we do a random birth sequence, which I assume is working. I guess I could find out if it's working by taking out the stand sequence, and we could see, do we hear it play the birth sequence, and then the death sequence? Because, you know, I mean, it might. I don't know. I was curious to see if it would do that, if it would have, like, birth, death going on.
Let's get on with it. Dabu.
I really need to put these guys next to each other.
At your call, as you wish.
Let's get on with it. Look, Narosh! Yes.
Oh, this is interesting.
None will survive. Dabu.
So,
Look, Narosh!
it's not playing that birth animation at all. For some reason. It seems like this model instance, like when I hand it off to the render attack projectile, somebody's monkeying with its sequence, probably. Is there any other explanation for what that would be? You know? I mean, it sure looks like render attack projectile. It adds it to the list of projectiles and then should launch it, yet somehow it doesn't play a random birth sequence. Unless it's somehow like not called birth or has some other special name. But it didn't play a stand sequence. It just didn't play anything at all. Which makes me think birth must have something weird going on. So like here, if I uncomment this, and I change this to birth sequence, I'll bet this will be really noisy because it'll be like birth, birth, birth as it flies. But that doesn't answer, why is the other code not running?
Lokriga Nokal. Yes.
I am not afraid. For my people.
The spirits are restless. For honor. For Doomhammer! For honor. Look, Narosh!
I'm doubting that's the birth sequence. Let's check if we go to actually Thrall's thing. Sorry, wrong click there. Yeah, Thrall, and we go to projectile art. What does birth look like compared to stand? What's the difference? So they look pretty much identical. I think the difference is birth is supposed to make a sound, you know, like, you know, like it's supposed to have a sound, a throw sound. I don't know why we're not hearing the throw sound. I don't get it. There should be a throw sound. You know the one I'm talking about. Well, I guess to get the bottom of that, maybe we should try, if I go to the launcher, instead of the map, if I just do a model test. What do we get? Loaded. What did we load today? Oh, I guess I loaded the rising water doodad. I did not remember that's what I was last testing. Okay, so we want to go to this guy, and instead of rising water doodad, we want to load abilities, weapons, Farseer missile, Farseer missile. And I'm just curious, does it not play all the sounds? Yeah, I guess. It looks like the sound of the other one must be out of range. So we really need my model editor for this one to figure out how are we parsing the sound that wrong, you know? Or can we do it without the model editor? That's the crazy other question. Which, you know, I mean, maybe we could. If I say this dot main model dot get event objects, totally not a thing. Get event objects. Get event objects down here. Yeah. Get event objects, right? And we just want to get the first one, and then event dot. There's a lot of extra information that we don't necessarily want. Interval times. Yeah, let's just print out arrays to string of interval times, right? So it should print out all the interval times when it starts up here. Oh, it's null. There's no interval times. Okay, that's not what I wanted then. What I want is like the timelines. You know? Timelines.get animation map dot what is that thing? KE. It should be the event object things. Yeah, the event object timeline. Maybe it's not even there. Okay, wait. Event objects. When we parse the event object, we read to the keyframes. Okay, then we have get keyframes. Who uses that? Event object, emitter object it does have keyframes. Okay, that's what I wanted. Was just evt.keyframes. Well, maybe not. It has keyframes, but it doesn't let me get them. Okay. Now it does. So I would hope it would print them out. 1467. Okay. For every sequence seek in this .main model, get sequences. Yeah. Name, arrays to string, seek interval. So this should print the names of all the animations and their intervals so that we know what 1467 is relative to. So that's the death sound. Okay. So where's the birth sound? So I printed EVT keyframes. What about EVT1? 1100. It's at the very beginning of birth. Meanwhile, the other one's at 1467 at the very beginning of death. Which makes me think that the problem is that in a model instance, the frame starts at 0 and it should probably start at -1. And that way we'll think that we advanced to frame 1. No. No. It's just really odd that it doesn't play an event object at 1100 and it does play one at 1467, right? Like, why would that be? What is different about them fundamentally? I wouldn't think anything is. So maybe its attempt to pick out the audio on the one is actually failing. Maybe there's a reason that that sound isn't what we think it is. So when we load an event object SND and we get that, it gets event object SND emitter. Oh, there must be something more to this. So emitter object decoded buffers, right? Decoded buffers dot add resource dot data. We want generic resource fetch URL. That's right. That's what we want right there. We're just going to be printing that one out. There. Just loading. See, it only loaded parser missile.weave. Well then, what's the other one? That's crazy. What's the other event object? Event object. Right? What did I not know about this? Main model. Or even just evt.name. Can I do that? I wonder, when we make this, we're given this event object, which we hand to it as object. This is object. But it doesn't save object, does it? It does have name though. Okay, thing.name. evt.name. That's what I wanted right there. I want to print evt.name. Sound xkbar. It is a sound. It is a sound that refuses to play a sound. A sound that doesn't think it's a sound. That's not a good thing to have. Event object sound. Event object emitter object. When it does all this loading, it never got to this point of loading it. Kfar. Huh. Somehow this leads to a null. Is that right? Null event object type. Oh, it didn't do that then. Okay. Or is it that this dot type? Building event object. This dot type, comma, this dot name. So we get both of those in there. Yeah, it has mfar, but it doesn't have kfar. So who makes that determination? Unknown event object ID. I guess it's from here. Sound xkfar is not found. Kfar. It doesn't find kfar. That's weird. I guess it must have some special thing going on. So if we actually look at the data, right? Let's look at the data. And I'm going to go and get the data. Right? UI anim sounds. So we look at the data, right? And this isn't even it. That's anim sounds. We want anim lookups. Where's the sound lookups? Yeah. Kfar. Right? It's supposed to be hero farseer. But it doesn't load for some reason. Sound kfar. I mean, it definitely says kfar right here. It doesn't seem to be successfully loading that. Which is an interesting spin on things. Why do you suppose that would be? Well, sound kfar. There's got to be a reason. We can't find a row for kfar. First table. Oh. Well, the first table should be definitely anim lookups. Definitely. Why does the anim lookups have a kfar row? I mean, that would suggest that we're unable to actually load SLK correctly. Which, you know, it's not impossible, but it wasn't how I thought things were. Is there something special about the actual format of kfar in this table? Let's find out. Kfar, hero farseer attack. That looks pretty standard to me. What is the difference between kfar and mfar, right? Mfar is really similar. Really similar to kfar. Huh. So Kfar. Can't find Kfar. That's just really strange to me. I would have thought we could find it. I wonder here, when I load that table, can I do the same thing to get... So like for this .id, the Kfar row is first table like get row Kfar. So here's something weird, right? For mfar, the Kfar is this. For Kfar, the Kfar... Oh, this is Kfar space. Why is it Kfar space? Are you kidding me? That would do it. Okay. That's the kind of brilliant programming Warcraft would have in it. Alright. I mean, warsmash. Because we're smashing Warcraft, putting in all these great bugs. Yeah, you guys get what happened here. We didn't trim the row information, obviously. So that's just silly small potatoes. You just id.trim right there. That ought to fix everything so that it'll work, you know. So I don't think the birth animation is very long, but it doesn't need to be very long. If we go back to the launcher now, and we go back to a map world instead of just a model viewer, we should be able to see it in the world, and then the key just becomes render attack projectile. Back on this guy, can we re-enable stand to not be crazy? Which I think we can do. And maybe this will work. There we go. We're back to a world instead of a map viewer. And why do I never find Thrall when I start off?
Let's get on with it.
Oh, I was assuming the camera started in the center, but it doesn't, does it? The camera is probably starting wherever the hero,
For honor.
the player's start location is.
For Doomhammer! Yes.
There we go. We have the throw sound. That was
For honor.
That was worth every second to get the throw
For
sound.
honor.
We're gonna kill a paladin today. That's the plan.
None will survive.
See that? Look at that. I'm so close to killing this paladin right now. Okay, now the other thing I really need is I need for this missile to do damage. Right?
Dabu.
We really need for this missile to do
Let me
damage.
face the people.
Also,
as you wish.
I am. Yes. Dabu. None will survive. Dabu.
At your call, it shall be done.
so something else, and I do wonder if this would cause some kind of desync, is that at the time that the projectile finishes, you want to remove it from the world. And I guess partly where that gets to is the simulation projectile, this guy, should probably remove himself from the world the moment he is done. So I guess maybe this should be like a Boolean that returns true when it's done, you know? Otherwise returns false. And that gives us the ability on the outside. Wait, why did I do C equals 0 up here? That's pretty silly. Okay, that's pretty silly code. Let's do C less than 0.01. Yeah, so this is the done thing. And my thought process is that should create like some kind of compile error in whoever calls update on this guy, which would be csim. I guess it's not a compile error. But basically, if update is done, then remove it from the projectiles, right? But actually, to make it remove, we'd have to format this loop a little bit differently. We'd have to do projectiles.iterator, projectile iterator, right? And that way we can say this is a variable which is set equal to projectile iterator next, and while projectile iterator has next. And then we can make our loop a while loop. And then I can say if this happens, projectile iterator.remove. Great. So that removes the projectile after it lands from the combat simulation, but the render projectile, which was like capable of a desync if you did this in the simulation, needs to say it is done when, and this is different. I guess we could return like a boolean here. It returns true if done. So basically return this dot simulation projectile is done and model instance dot sequence ended, right? So it's like the end of the death flash and that thing. And then that should get us the ability to do basically the same thing here. Yeah, so this would be a while loop. This would be an iterator. Projectile iterator. Yeah, and then while projectile iterator has next. And then this is going to be a variable on the outside equals projectile iterator dot next. And that way we can say if update animations returns true, meaning it's done, then projectile iterator remove, and that'll clear it out of the existence of the list. Great. Wonderful. Java iterators actually aren't wonderful, but they get the job done. So we got that going for us.
The spirits are restless.
Now my theory is that this won't leave behind little glows under their feet.
Your time has come.
But it did leave a little glow under its feet, actually.
Yes.
If I just keep doing that, it's clearly not working. Sequence ended is clearly not being assigned to true. And they're just sitting there in space when they land. So that points out something else must be wrong. If is done and sequence ended. And projectiles dot remove. Oh yes, okay, so that's another interesting thing. When we remove the projectile, it doesn't remove its model from the scene, right? So we need to actually say projectile model instance. And I don't know if that's going to be like inside here, outside of here, but basically everything done. And then if everything done, this dot model model instance dot set scene to null, maybe to like get it out of. No, you can't set scene to null. Okay, well there's got to be something. Okay, war3 map viewer world scene. Remove instance, this dot model instance. There we go. Remove the instance. That ought to do it. We're removing it from the scene. Does remove instance also remove it from the grid? It does. Okay, great. There's this grid structure that I don't use correctly, but it's supposed to be able to add and remove like that, so that's important. All right. So now it should actually disappear, I think.
Let's get our honor. Yes.
Let's see.
None will survive.
Oh. Well then. Scene is null, but it still tries to render it. So that's a little bit silly. Right? What are we going to do about that? So in render, world scene wants to render, but unfortunately, world scene now contains a set of group. So are the translucent groups of the world scene set up? And now, hold on, this is still render translucent of model instance. This dot instances. We have an instance with a null scene, which we shouldn't have. Right? Render attack projectile is going to remove instance, which then does that. But somehow, render translucent still has this dot instances. Apparently, this dot instances needs to remove instance. And we thought that that would be done, and it wasn't done. I don't quite follow why. Okay, well, I think that should fix it. I just don't get why it didn't already do that. Just a little bit concerning.
Let's get honor.
Okay.
Dabu, your time has come.
There we go. See, nothing left behind.
Doom hammer.
Good.
Dabu.
That's how it was supposed to be all along.
Yes. Dabu.
There you go.
For Doom hammer. Dabu.
Now, the other thing we need to kill this paladin is hit points. So the way that we do that would obviously be in C attack projectile in the combat simulation. We say right here when it lands, if not done, if it wasn't previously considered in the done state, then once and only once will do damage. The way that we're going to do that is to, well, I guess the attack projectile needs to actually have some concept of how much damage it's going to do. So for that, I guess we need to give it int damage. It will save as a field on it. That is its damage it does to the target. And then we're going to have this dot target dot set life. This dot target get life minus damage. I think that would do it, right? But I wonder, it's probably smarter if we do this dot target dot damage as a function that knows the source of the damage, which points out that we want this to also have a source unit, right? That just makes more sense to have a function like that. So you have a source and some damage. And that way we can create a function, source and damage. There you damage a widget, and of course it's actually going to be this dot life minus equals damage, but later on we'll be able to track who dealt the damage. We'll always have a unit associated with who's doing the damage. It's just a bit more straightforward that way. So that's all pretty good. Target damage, that amount. But I guess the next key would be when we do that, and we do target dot damage, this dot source, this dot damage. The key there would be that if the target dies, it needs to despawn out of the world or something like that. Yeah, and this needs to actually have source, and then simulation get unit data, get A1 min damage. Type IDs. This is min damage. Yeah, A1 min damage. And then we probably also want A1 max damage. And then we can say damage equals, we probably want seeded random, don't we? Well, the best way to do random in Java land is, I think, to just have a random class. Seeded random equals new random. And you can say my random comes from a seed, and the seed is 1337 or something like that. And then, oh no, I thought you could do that. I suppose not. Okay, random. Maybe seeded random. What is this? Particle controller. That's not the right random. No. Java.util.random, okay? Great. That is a random that can be made from a seed, like 1337. Okay, so we make a random from a seed, and that means I can say seeded random next integer with a bound of a1 max minus a1 min. Right, and that gets us that damage plus a1 min. So in theory that should get the damage amount. It should be random. Still doesn't apply hero attributes or any of that, but it'll probably do some really basic damage to that paladin. The problem then is we don't have any indication of like what damage it is or that it's happening. So the next thing we're going to want to implement is a health bar, I think. We're going to do this really rudimentary because, you know, we don't have a huge amount of time in our lives to make a great health bar. So in order to make a great health bar, we're just going to go into warsmash. And the first thing we got to do, really, to be totally honest with you, is in here, project core, like assets, I think is what we want. No, it's not assets, actually. Yeah, I was thinking of the wrong thing. The recycle bin. No. There's a folder called test, which contains the alpha UI, which I should be able to edit, but it wants to open paint instead of paint.net, which is ridiculous. We want to edit it in paint.net, because paint.net understands smart stuff. And if we open this file, okay, here's the problem. Here's the problem. This bar right here. You know, we want to overlay on top of this bar right here an actual health bar. And in order to do that, we need to know what pixel this is. And then we need to make it black. Great. So if I save this, like now it'll be black, so I can fill it in. And then the coordinates of it are something here, it looks like. I was hoping I could capture those exact same coordinates. Yeah, selection top left, bounding rectangle size, 7 times 5. So this creates the next question, which is, can we work out the math for where to put that thing? It's a little bit difficult because in my current world UI stuff, I just hard-coded a bunch of horrible numbers, I think, for where the UI is, right? So like the console UI texture literally just renders 0, 0, 320 is height. And 320 is the height, but that's not actually the height of this texture. It's actually kind of off, I believe. Top left. I think it's left top. Yeah, I think the height of this is actually like 220. So you can basically do the math on this. You can say, okay, I am at x equals 238, y down equals 193, width equals 5, height equals 70, on a texture that is, what are the bounds of this texture? 922 by 222. 922 x 222. But the game is stretching the texture to whatever the UI viewport. Yeah, to 1600 width, 320 height, right? 1600 x 320. So you kind of have to math this out a little bit and say, okay, on a calculator, you know, if I math this out on a calculator, the x coordinate is 238 out of 922. That ratio times 1600, that should be 413. So I should be able to say, and I guess we need a solid green texture, which you would think that we could get that somehow easily. For now, I think what I'm going to do is placeable textures, team color, team player 7 green. Does that sound right? Player 7 green. So, was that right? I make that up. Wait. No. Unit palette, player 7 green. Yes, we'll use that green for now. Later we'll want a different green. So this is going to be solid green texture. And we'll make a variable of that. So the idea is that we'll draw this solid green texture just right when we're drawing the rest of the UI and all these fonts and stuff in the selected unit. And we're going to draw it as this.batch.draw solid green texture, and x coordinate is this 413 we got out of the math world. So that's good. Now the other thing is height is a y down of 193 and a width 5, which is actually 198, so it's actually 222. I believe we're up from the bottom, so we're like 222 minus 198 basically. So like 24 out of 222. That as a ratio times 320 is like 34.5. We could round it up to, maybe round it down to 34. So that gives us a y of 34, and then we know our width is 70 out of 9222 times 1600. So that's like 125. What was that? 121.5? 122. And the height, likewise, was 5 over 222 times 320, which is 7.2, so basically 7. So you can do this kind of math, and we'll probably still see a green health bar in the game if I did the math correctly. Maybe, possibly. And it would only be when we selected a unit. So like right now you can see there's just a blue hard-coded monobar.
Let's get on with it.
But when I select Thrall,
I am
he has a green health bar down there. And so the advantage to this is that we can actually then say, well, the width of this bar is going to be multiplied by selected unit, get simulation unit, get life, get life, divided by selected unit, get simulation unit, get maximum life. And this should mean that if we select the paladin, we can see him lose life when we attack him, maybe. We'll certainly find out if that is the case. Let's see. Here we go.
I am the war chief. Yes.
So we're going to run up here and attack this paladin.
Dabu.
And we'll just see if we actually can reduce his life with our attacks. But it's only going to reduce it by like 2 to 8. So it's going to be
None will survive.
really slow. Yeah, there you go. You see his life going down? That's right. It actually, that looks like a lot more than 2 to 8. Am I imagining this, or is it going up? Anyway,
It shall be done.
we're gonna beat him.
For my and for honor.
That
For my
just run
shall
away.
be done. It shall be done. My for honor.
I got away from it. I outran it, but it went underground. There you go, I did it. It's gone negative. Now that,
I am Dabu, the war chief.
I am not afraid.
that's a dead paladin if ever there was one, right? I mean, that's... Alright, I know what you guys are saying. He doesn't look like a dead paladin. So, obviously... we need to go to C stand order stand, or what is it? C order, do nothing order, where they play their stand animation. Okay, and in update animation, the unit tries to decide their animation name. Yeah, basically that. If sequence ended, or this other stuff, or it's dead. Yeah, so basically I'm going to say if MDX complex instance dot, actually not even complex instance, really simulation unit get life less than or equal to 0, then we're going to play the death animation. Right? So we need to do that same thing we did in the attack projectile, which is to select out the death sequence, and then if we're not playing it, make them play it. The only problem this has where this doesn't work is if you have 2 death sequences. It's still a hack, and it's not a good hack, and we're going to have to eventually change it, but it'll work for today's example. So let's just have, yeah, MDX complex instance. All right, great. So basically that thing sequence will become death sequence. So maybe we can kill a paladin. Let's see. Will I finally kill a paladin in my own little world?
I am the war chief.
Is someone going to tell me that this doesn't count? See, I didn't even code attack range. I can just kill him from across the map. See, why don't we do that? I just kill him from across the map.
At your call. For honor.
Can't beat
It
any
shall be
paladin.
done. As you wish. For honor. For honor.
Seems like when he's outrunning them, they can't hit him. This seems like a design flaw.
I am the war chief. For honor.
Hey, there you go. He died. He didn't play his death sound, though. That's unfortunate. I don't know why that was. But
For honor.
I killed that paladin.
None will survive. Look now. Yes.
They don't seem to play their sound when they die. You'd think they would
At
do
your
that.
call. For my people. As you wish.
And, you know, there's this problem.
For my people. For honor.
But
for my people.
we can fix
For
that
honor.
later, you know?
For honor.
You need to make him
Look
not
regard
control
for
the
Ask
honor.
of me. For honor. As you wish. For my people. For honor. It shall be done.
dead sheep.
I am the war
Dead doesn't
chief.
quite mean in this game what it means in other games.
None will survive. For honor.
But anyway, I would say we killed a paladin, so there you go. Every day we buy progressive soup and kill a paladin.